Hello, everybody, and welcome back to All Was Right. I'm Chris Thomas, and this is Larissa. We have a lot of cool, more wacky, crazy stuff to talk about today. A lot of bozos on the menu, as usual. First, I want to make an announcement. Um, Larissa's account, Over This Shit 6.0, which I've been promoting every week on here for the last few weeks, has now been banned again. Surprise, surprise. I mean,
Shocking.
it happens about every 10 or 15 minutes. It just keeps happening. So I'll put the account handle on the screen. We're going to be now telling you to follow, if you haven't discovered this podcast from TikTok, Over This Shit 7.0. Again, look at the bottom of the screen. It'll be there. And we're starting over because that's what we have to do because we can't get a word out edgewise. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
Um, but today we have some cool stuff. We're going to be watching actually a video and live reacting together for the first time because I'm technologically incompetent and I just figured out how to do this. Um, the Senate Judiciary Committee actually heard some testimony from the far left radical human rights campaign director along with Riley Gaines seated at the same table. And there was some really explosive questioning that happened that we're going to talk about today. We also are going to be talking about Elon Musk, one of our new found champions of free speech, and the backlash, because obviously some people on the fascist left don't want free speech, so we're going to be talking about that. We also have a little bit more Jeffrey Marsh for you as well, because we can't do a show without talking about Jeffrey Marsh. So, that being said, I am going to pull up the first clip that we're going to be talking about, and I may pause it and rudely interrupt, and we can react to this. But essentially, the context here, the Human Rights Campaign, again, far left organization, was giving testimony about the status of LGBTQIA 7635 plus rights to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Riley Gaines was there as well to talk about her perspective, because obviously she is a conflicting voice in this issue. Specifically, the topic was transgender rights for most of the session. And one of my favorite senators, I actually have a few other friends on TikTok who I talk to who love Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. I love him because he always sounds like he's kind of a backwoods type guy who maybe isn't that
Yeah.
smart, and then he's like so effing smart, and I love him. He always leaves people speechless. So, without further ado, I am going to play the clip.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is
Okay,
assigned
so there are
at birth.
three. I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born. I'm talking about biology. Male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But
Intersex.
again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
And
say
what does intersex mean?
is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and
First off, this is something they always do. They bring up intersex. I feel like we've seen this on TikTok before, right? They bring up
Always.
they
They
bring up
always love that
intersex as if it's
argument.
some kind of it's as if it's some kind of other gender. Intersex is a physical condition. It's a genetic abnormality that isn't it's anatomical. It's not related to what gender somebody ends up growing up as. So it's just a stupid argument. Anyway, I'm gonna keep playing it.
But sex is
Okay, so
assigned
there are
at birth.
three. I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born. I'm talking about biology. Male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But
Intersex.
again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
And
say
what does intersex mean?
is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I
More
talk
than
to young
five?
people
More
that
than-
talk about non-binary as
More than five?
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying
But
to say.
are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I mean, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our
Are there
gender
more
that
than
are
five
expansive.
genders? Are there?
So Larissa, do you want to come out as trans maybe?
I think I might. I mean, I did not realize that if you wear pants, it automatically means that you're a male. So who would have knew? Who would have thought that I would be a dude?
I know the truth. See, this video, I thought it was just going to be a casual thing we could talk about, and it's actually produced some revelations about your life that's going to change the trajectory of your entire life.
It's going to change everything. It's going to change everything about everybody's life now. Anybody that wears pants is automatically a man.
I mean, at a minimum, you're gender fluid, right? At a minimum.
Yes.
Because I'm sure some days, depending on the occasion, you might wear a dress, but you're at a minimum gender fluid.
Right.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl. Okay, biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are
You
shorter.
don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female.
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women. And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood is not threatened by a transgender person asserting hers as well.
It's so incredibly stupid. Everything she said, because she's using all of the same leftist tropes that we see time after time after time after time on TikTok. To me, this was like the comment section of TikTok. If you could just put that in front of the Senate, it plays out exactly the same way. They go for the intersex argument that, oh, the gender binary doesn't exist because intersex. You have that, then you have, well, not all men are stronger than women because there are some women who are stronger than men. Of course there are. Like, if you're going to put a young athletic woman against a 90-year-old man, of course there's, well, not even against a 90-year-old man, against an out-of-shape man. The woman is going to outperform. That's just how it works. But to say that statistically men don't have an advantage in sports that involve specific levels of strength, physical strength that is, and speed and agility, it's the genetic makeup is different, and you just see her repeating the same tropes. And I think Senator Kennedy put it perfectly at the end. Everyone should have rights. Nobody should be discriminated against, but to suggest that it's fair to have women competing in men's sports, men competing in women's sports, is just absolutely nonsense.
I agree. I mean, put it this way. I'm a tall girl. I'm 5'10", but if you put me up against another guy who is 5'10", I guarantee you he would kick my ass or outrun me or out whatever me any day, just because he is going to be bigger, faster, stronger than I would be.
Exactly. And see, feminists on the left will say that you hate yourself, or that you hate women, or that you are a self-loathing woman. It's like, no, that's just the physical truth. That's not an argument about value.
If you put me up against a 5'5" guy, yeah, I might be able to outrun him, but could he possibly still have more arm muscle than me? Sure.
Exactly, and that's nothing to do with value. That's not saying women have less value in society than men. It's not saying that women are worse people than men. It has nothing to do with that. But you have these feminists on the left, and they'll tell you you're denigrating women by saying that. So it's just so silly the way we've conflated all these things with value and merit. It's like women's sports exist so women can excel. You wouldn't have great women athletes, right? If women's sports didn't exist, you just wouldn't. And that's what we are always trying to school people on TikTok. It's just they don't understand. They wouldn't even listen to what we say because it just comes off as so hateful, and they want to pluck their eyeballs out and slice their ears off because it's so painful for them to hear. But it's true, and it shouldn't be painful. And I think when we tell people, and I made comments about this on past episodes, when you tell people that society hates you and you're oppressed and you're being genocided, you'll create that self-fulfilling prophecy, and people will believe that. And I think it's incredibly harmful to the trans community, to the non-trans community, when people become so resistant to hearing very basic biological and objective truths. And it's just sad. Um, that being said, I think we may be onto something over on Twitter. Maybe TikTok isn't the place to be and Twitter is the place to be. We'll have to see. Because Elon Musk made a really, really cool announcement very, very recently. And I'll let you segue into that, Larissa.
So, Elon Musk apparently said that at minimum, your account would be temporarily suspended if you use the term cis or cisgender on Twitter because it is considered a slur. Now, what's very interesting about this is the term cisgender was coined in, I believe, the 1960s, but the first published instance of the term cissexual was not published, I believe, until 1991 by a German sexologist, pedophile, psychologist, pedophilia activist, all of the nasty things out there. Yeah, it was coined by him, but the woman, Dana, what's her last name? But she is a med student who decided to change the term from cissexual to cisgender. And she's the one taking all the credit for coining the term cisgender, although she just changed the terminology with it ultimately having the same meaning. She gave some serious backlash to Elon Musk, basically like saying about the free speech and all of that stuff. But I mean, I just find it really interesting that he is, banning the term and accepting that it is being used as a slur,
I mean, my
despite the
purview is
backlash.
I am very pro free speech personally. So normally I wouldn't be an advocate of necessarily banning any word from any platform, but this is the game that the left has decided to play, so we're going to play it.
Right.
I actually was arguing with one person on TikTok, like I think it was yesterday, where actually I wasn't arguing with them. I stitched their video, and they were basically saying that the word cis can't be a slur because doctors and medical professionals and other academics haven't considered it a slur before. And that's all well and good, right? But think of all the other things that were not slurs before that are all of a sudden apparently slurs because somebody in bumblefuck, probably California, because that's how Californians are, said they were offended by it.
Yeah.
I think we talked about like the fat acceptance movement last time. Obese is now considered a slur. There isn't any doctor or medical professional or academic who will tell you that's a slur, but some woke victimhood obsessed fat person, and I'm saying that not as a insult to fat people, it's an insult to woke people. But there was some woke overweight person somewhere all of a sudden was very, very offended because they didn't want to hear the truth that they had to lose weight, and so that caught on like wildfire because of the culture we live in that's so focused on victimhood, right? And now we say that obese is a slur. So if you're going to say that, because academics and doctors don't think it's a slur, it's not, then 99% of the other things that we've had to admit are slurs are not slurs either. I'm not a fan of banning any words from any platforms. I'm very much pro free speech. But, Elon is recognizing this is the game the left is playing, so we're going to play it.
Right.
And
And I'm totally okay with that.
It's a sad game. It's a very, very sad game. I don't want to play this game, but
It's that
we
it's
have
that
no...
tit for tat. It's like we're back in the third grade.
Exactly. I mean, it's not a game I would have ever wanted to play. It's depressing. I think it's immature. But it's the world we live in. It's how it is, unfortunately.
Yep.
And I think it's going to get worse. And soon there's going to be nothing we can say, and we're going to be putting people to death for hurting each other's feelings. I really think that's coming. I don't know if that's coming, but it's certainly inching closer.
Yes.
which is really, really sad. Um, I, speaking of things you can't say, I know we've talked about how Jeffrey Marsh is, forbidden. We can't say his name. Um, I pulled a video, which is very, very interesting. It sums up a lot of the other types of debates that we've been having on TikTok. Um, and it's just so interesting because we have the whole feminism, it's usually the conservative point of view that we don't need feminism. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time that, women largely achieved equal rights. I think sexism exists in society, and both women and men will concede that and call it out. Good people will call it out when they see it. But largely, women do really well, not necessarily much worse than men. And we've largely seen the need that we don't need to have feminists marching in the streets anymore because of that. I think we talked last time about how we've now regressed into this position where we need feminism again, and it's largely because of the alphabet mafia taking away women's rights in women's spaces. And I found it very, very interesting that Jeffrey Marsh wanted to weigh in on the whole feminism issue, and he thinks that feminists and the trans community should work together to fight the forces that oppress, he puts it as, oppresses both groups. As if it's not his people that are the ones oppressing women. So let's play the clip.
I'm not even quite sure what this post means. But anything that pits trans people against feminists is, in my opinion, heading in the wrong direction. We could and should be working inclusively together against the forces that oppress both of us. And I would point out, it is ironic for a movement, turfism, that calls itself feminist to be in the business of policing what all women should think about, how they should react, and what they should do. Just my 2 cents.
Oh, how sweet, right? He's
He
on
is
our
the last
side
person
after
that
all.
should be putting in his 2 cents to anything.
Yeah, right. I want to trust him. I mean, we just saw him last week say, "Hand over your kids so I can groom them." I mean,
Yeah, he's
that's what
the last person I would take any sort of advice or anything from. I would not take a lollipop from that man.
But I mean, he's probably offering some lollipops from the backs of some vans, right? I mean,
Probably. He definitely has a Chester molester van giving out free candy to children on the freaking sidewalk at 3 in
Right.
the afternoon as soon as the kids get out of school. Thankfully, school's over for the year. We just have to worry about when fall rolls
that's
around.
true. That's true. So I mean, think of the absurdity of what he's saying though. He's saying it's my people that are coming into your bathrooms without consent, that are taking away sports championships from you and erasing your accomplishments. We're exposing ourselves to you in your locker rooms. No matter how you feel, we're going to do it anyway because we don't give a shit about what you're comfortable with. What else? We're going to make... I don't know if you heard in California... they've even, and this isn't really related to trans people, but I actually wanted to bring it up because it shows how we rewrite definitions in our norms for these people. So you know how certain insurance carriers will cover infertility as a medical condition, and if you want to have a baby in vitro or via some other method, the insurance sometimes will cover that. In California, and I was shocked to learn this. I thought it was fake until another TikToker actually showed it to me, and I was true. Now, I have nothing against, like, two gay guys or two gay women who want to have a kid. I don't have a moral issue with that. However, California now rolled out a new insurance policy that if you are a same-sex couple, you can get the taxpayers to pay for your surrogacy or in vitro pregnancy because you get a diagnosis of infertility, even if you're two men. And
Yeah,
I don't have an
I
issue with
read
women
that.
having
Yep.
kids, but I do have an issue when you redefine something that's scientific in the name of inclusivity. And I actually looked this up. It was actually pretty old. It was like back in 2013. And looking back, it might not have seemed like a big deal then, but that's what's paving the way for this stuff to be acceptable today. When you gradually one term at a time redefine things in the name of inclusivity, but you're really deviating scientifically from what the reality is, and you redefine things kind of word by word until now you have an English language and culture that's like unrecognizable from what it was 10 years ago. And so basically what Jeffrey Marsh is saying is we're going to invade all your spaces, we're going to take your opportunities away, we're going to erase your identity and stick the other terminology on you with the word cis. And now we want to work together with you to fight oppression.
Yeah, I was loving the turfism comment that he made.
Yeah, I mean, turf has become, and I believe that they use the word turf as a slur too. That's
Oh,
absolutely become a slur.
100%.
Now, my approach to that, and I think I don't know if you saw Dave Chappelle's special.
Uh,
You would love it. It was his most recent special. What was it called? It was whatever the most recent one was. But he had a whole segment about saying that he was Team Turf, and he made like a really good metaphor where he said, he's black, and he said he thinks that when a trans woman says they're a woman, it feels to real women the way black people feel when somebody does blackface. That you're imitating them. And
that's a good analogy.
yeah, and you're imitating them and making and doing a parody of them, and it's not real, but you're claiming that's what you are. And he said essentially that he's proudly Team Turf, and I think the way you combat that, the way you combat when someone calls you a turf is like, hell yeah, I'm a turf. I mean, we've already went through it on TikTok with, saying I think it was Lex who wrote proud bigot in her bio for a while, and like that's the approach that I'm having. It's like you can call me that, but the fact that you're calling me that means I'm doing something right and I must be making sense, otherwise you wouldn't have to silence me and shut me down. That's how I feel, at least.
Well, I don't even consider turf a slur anymore. I now go by it means what is it? True, educated, real female.
Well, I haven't heard that. Wait, who did you come up with that or no?
Yeah, a while ago.
Well, you came up with that?
Yeah. Some people you will use different words, like somebody will use terrific, educated, real female, but I use truly educated, real female.
I love
true,
that. I
either
actually,
one.
this is the first time I heard that, and it just made
Really?
my night. I
I've
love that.
commented it to people like on my own videos or other people's videos when they say, "Oh, you're a turf." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. It's a compliment. It really means true, educated, real female. Guess you didn't know." And then what are they going to say back to that?
Right. They can't say no, you're not, because it's true. I mean, they think that none of us are educated. A lot of us are a lot more educated than they are, but it's just so true. I think you have to wear these things with a badge of honor, and that's what I do.
That's kind of why we call it now. Like if you get called a racist, a bigot, a turf, a snowflake, any of the other words that they want to use to kind of degrade us, we have to wear it as a badge of honor and take it as a compliment, because otherwise, if they know that it hurts your feelings or makes you angry or whatever, then they're winning. So you kind of have to like give them the Uno reverse card in a way, you know?
I mean, they've reversed a lot of things on us, which I think is interesting. So it used to be the conservatives that called woke people snowflakes. That used to be the thing. I've noticed, and I think you've seen it too, they call us snowflakes now. But it's interesting. Like the whole term snowflake has the connotation of you're upset over nothing. And it's like, we're not upset over nothing. We're not upset because you've hurt our feelings or you've offended us. We're upset because you're endangering our children. You're indoctrinating them into your cult. You are exposing your penis to us, if you're a woman, in our bathrooms, in our locker rooms. You're maybe making it so our daughters can't go to college because they can't win championships against men. It's like, that's not nothing. So like, I'm okay seeing, if I see a woman or a young mom like yourself really, really deeply upset about those things, I don't go, oh, she's a snowflake, she's offended. It's like, no, like, she's thinking about her daughter, she's thinking about her future, she's thinking about her safety and her comfort in public and intimate spaces. That's what's going on. That's not getting upset over not liking a word or not liking whatever. I mean, that's serious stuff. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think it's really incredible to see these moms on TikTok. Because I feel like many of you guys are young moms, and I think I've said before that this has become the civil rights issue of this generation. And I think it feels like we have a generation where our daughters are at risk. And so how can you not? I mean, I'm sure that's how you feel. Like, how could you not be upset about that?
I mean, even though I don't have a daughter and I have a son, it's really impacted me wanting to have more kids, because now I'm terrified of, bad enough that I have to raise my son in this world, but if I had a daughter, oh my God, like, I would be screwed. I would be, even more so than having a son. So I could just only imagine how these moms are feeling who do have daughters, because it really is about protecting your children and making sure that they feel safe in spaces that are protected and designated for them.
But I also think this has a devastating impact on men too, because it's taught men, it's teaching men that, and I think there's a whole other discussion about, toxic masculinity. I think we're also teaching men at the same time that any masculinity is evil. And so
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of men who are stifling normalcy. I think it's normal for it, like, it's nowadays, like, some woke women will get like upset if a guy holds the door for them, and they'll say that's sexist. What, like, you're demeaning me because you think I need the door held? I mean, it's like normal polite behavior by young men is going to be demonized, and it is being demonized. And you're going to have these men who are afraid to do anything because they don't want to be called misogynists. And
Right.
I know the threat against women is much, much worse, but I oftentimes, even as a guy myself, like, I have a lot of female friends, and a lot of my female friends are pretty woke. I'll just say that. And I'm oftentimes like having to really watch what I'm saying, because I'm like deathly afraid that some normal shit that I say is going to be construed as horribly misogynistic.
Yeah.
And yeah, but think these young people that are like your son is very, very young. This is the world he's growing up in.
Yeah.
It's not like he's formed his own conscience and formed his own worldview, and then he's hearing this stuff, and then he can make a decision right now about whether it should apply to him or not. This is the world he's growing up in.
Right. And this is about me teaching him. And of course, at this age, I'm going to teach him basically what my values are. And my values are, you need to respect women. And it is important to hold a woman's door open, her car door, pull her chair out. I'm going to teach my son those things. And if a little woke princess one day ever thinks that, he's less masculine for that, then you know what? That's kind of what I have to say about it, because that's being a gentleman in my eyes, and it's not being any less masculine. And if anything, and I think it's more masculine.
I mean, personally, I would hold the door for, if a guy is walking behind me, I'll hold the door for him too. That's just like normal polite behavior. That's not,
I'm a woman,
that's not
and
me.
I do that for men and women. If I'm whatever, I'll gladly hold the door open for somebody. I have no issues with that.
Right, and I feel like if a woman does it for a man, then you have the feminazis screaming at you that, like, why would you accommodate a man that way? Men are evil. Men are horrible. Why would you do that? It's like, you can't win. No matter, you could be doing the nicest gesture just out of pure instinct, because I feel like as humans, a lot of us, we have some instinct to be polite. Like, if somebody's 2 feet behind you, you'd almost have to be purposely being rude to pull the door closed. You know,
Right.
no normal person who's polite would do that. But now people are going to start doing that, and we're going to encourage rudeness because politeness is demeaning. Politeness is sexist. Politeness is all kinds of isms. And like, what kind of future are we going to have if people are afraid to do the right thing? That's what it's really come down to.
It's going to be interesting to watch all this unfold, to say the least. It really is, especially in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 years at most. It's going to be a wild, bumpy ride for sure.
Absolutely, I'd love to have a time machine. I think one of the things that I just wish is if I could snap my fingers and like look 10 years into the future. Maybe I don't know maybe I wouldn't want to know what it's gonna look like, but I think we're gonna have a transformed society, not for the better, and I can't imagine what that's gonna look like.
I can't either, and honestly, I don't even want to know.
So yeah, that conversation ended up being pretty bleak. I hope everybody can still stick around until next time, despite all that. But yeah, that's actually the end of our show. Again, I want to promote Over This Shit 7.0. By next week, it's going to be 12.0 and then 15.0. That's just the way it's going to go. I mean, who knows? She may have another 5 accounts come and go within the next week. I just
The
think
next
that's
week, you never know.
yeah, that's what's gonna happen. And by the way, I'm actually at like I'm at 4 comment strikes and 3 video strikes right now. So I don't know if the comment strikes are weighted the same way as video strikes. Do you know?
I don't think that they are, and it's just be careful because I actually got my appeal result for my 6.0 account. Did not go through, and I still had the one video about the Holocaust that was in review and 2 comments that were still in review that still led me to be banned anyway, even
Oh
with
my
the
God. Speaking
appeal.
of
And
which,
those comments,
I actually want to talk about this quickly before we hop off. We dealt with the nastiest old hag, and I'm going to say that on here because we can't get banned on here, on TikTok. Larissa and I both. This nasty, nasty, nasty woman. And I'm going to put her comment up on the screen. But this woman, I felt, was one of the nastier people we've dealt with, for sure. Do you agree? Like we've dealt with some people who have said some crazy stuff, really out there stuff. This woman, in response, you can even tell the story. In response to you, what did you say about your grandparents before that?
so basically she was, I really don't even know like how the comment started, but basically she said along the lines of, like people suffering or something. And I was basically just told her that, my own grandparents are Holocaust survivors and, whatever else I said. And she made a comment back basically saying, oh, it's unfortunate that I did not learn from their sacrifices. And
Their
then she went on to
sacrifice,
say
yes.
that, yeah, and then she went on to call them Jewish camps rather than working camps or concentration camps, like as in it was meant to be an insult considering that the Nazis used to call them Jewish camps. So it's almost like you're trying to, attack me for my family being Jewish, which the funniest thing is that they weren't even Jewish.
Well, I think the part that like made my blood boil, and I know it's what upset you too, was that saying it was their sacrifice implies that they
Yeah, like they just
voluntarily
willingly up and said, here, please take me and my family into the working camps, starve us. And for my grandfather, yes, let me watch my mother get shot in the head while we're hiding in a water tower. Like, let's just volunteer for that. Like, are you people out of your goddamn minds?
So according to this woman, your grandparents went through all that trauma just so you could become a woke trans rights activist, right?
Pretty much.
Because because that's
Yep,
what you were
yep.
supposed to learn from their sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. Because I guess apparently since there was also trans people in the Holocaust, which My grandmother reassures me as an actual Holocaust survivor, there was no such thing as like trans people back in the day like that. Were there very few gay and lesbians? Absolutely. But it was like a teeny tiny percentage. So for even trans people to sit there and act like trans people got murdered during the Holocaust, just zip it, because it did not happen.
And it's like sick. I feel like I would have to be sitting there plotting what's the nastiest, most cold-hearted thing I could say to somebody in order to say what this woman said. I mean, this woman, and I actually made a video response to her because there was a lot of like feminist content on her page, and it was like, oh, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-woman, I'm support justice. Like, if you actively work to insult and tear down any woman that doesn't agree with you, you are anti-woman. And this is what I said to her. And then she blocked me, actually. Right after, I was actually satisfied that she blocked me, because it
Did
means
she?
I'm
I
right.
blocked her, so.
Yeah. And so, but like, and I was hearing from other people that she continued to comment even after that. And
Oh.
I was here, like somebody wrote on my video, oh, she's still at it commenting. And then she said something about we were spreading misinformation and all this stuff. It's like, you would not believe. I mean, these people, they believe that they're doing the right thing and that they're standing up for what's good. It's like, that is sick. I'm going to say it right. I'm going to say it unapologetically. These people are sick.
Yeah.
And they're bozos.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten worse in that aspect, especially because she technically is not a troll. Like, she has a real account. It's really her making videos. And same with the Thomas Bishop guy. You know, like, especially him. He has what, 1.1 million followers? But you know, you can't fix these people, unfortunately. It's just too late. There's no turning back now.
And you know what? If somebody on our side, and I really, really believe this, if somebody on our side made an account and their primary objective was to actually dox and cause harm to liberals, I would not follow that account. That would be, I would not stand for that. And I
Right.
think a lot of us don't. Like, I was just talking to a couple other TikTokers yesterday on our little Discord, and they were basically saying the stuff that comes out of the mouth of some of these lefties, we would have to be, we would have to be under some kind of unimaginable duress for that to come out of our mouths. I mean, like, the worst things that we say to people is that they're stupid, or that
Yep.
they're, or that they're a bozo in my case.
And our
But like,
comments will still get taken down for that too.
right, but like, I wouldn't even want to. I don't even feel like I would want to be meaner than that. If somebody says something stupid, then I'm gonna call them stupid. Or if somebody says something racist, I'll call them racist. Or if somebody says something sexist, I'll call them sexist. I'll describe them as how they're displaying themselves to be. That I think is the reasonable thing. I'm not gonna say what's the nastiest, most cold-hearted thing I can say about you as a person or your family. Like, I don't get what pleasure would I get from that?
Yeah.
I'm
I
arguing with
mean,
what you're saying.
I haven't said anything like that to these people in their comments. Like, if there's a video that I see that I don't like, I'm just not going to engage. What do I get out of leaving hate on somebody's video for? You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
it's it's stupid. And then, like you said, to be really insulting and really mean on top of it, you just must have a lot of hate in your heart, and you're just not a good person at the end of the day. And you were not raised correctly. That's how I see it in my eyes.
Exactly. And I
And
actually think they get pissed off because I think they want us to get hateful back and they want us to say something like that so they can play the victim. I've noticed they always
oh,
get
of course they
increasingly
do.
they get
And then when
increasingly
you do,
upset.
they report it anyway, even though we technically don't see it as it violating community guidelines. TikTok does. So then, we call somebody ignorant or arrogant or racist, and we call them something factual, and our shit gets taken down for no reason. But then they can call us a turf, a bigot, snowflake, etc.
I mean, I feel like calling us a turf, a bigot, snowflake is some of the nicer stuff. Like, I think I don't know if you saw a couple days ago, somebody said I looked like I had Down syndrome.
No, I did
I don't
not
know if you
even
saw
see
that
that.
one. And then they said that I should go back. Well, it was the same guy who said I should go back to Asia.
Okay, that one I did see. I
Yeah.
guess I just didn't see the other comment.
Yeah, so he commented after and he said, I'm not going to argue with a Down syndrome dysgenic Asian. And dysgenic, I don't know if you know what that means. Dysgenic means you have the appearance of somebody who has deformities and genetic
Nice.
issues. I'm like, what the like, seriously? I mean, I may not be like Prince Charming over here, but like, am I that ugly?
I don't think so. This
Like, Jesus.
people. I think people just try to use these words to, how do I say this? Basically, to try to make them sound intelligent with insulting you at the same time. So
Absolutely.
basically, to try to question your intelligence on top of going after your looks, because they're going to think, oh, I'm using this word. You're not going to know what I mean by it. And I'm also insulting you with your looks. So it's like a double whammy with that.
And meanwhile, most of these people have like a black square in their profile or some kind of anime shit. I've noticed they never have their real face
Yeah.
because they're probably too ugly to show themselves.
Ugly or old, like some of these creators who were like, 50 years old. And then people even in my own TikTok comments, they're like, oh, TikTok isn't meant for people in their late 40s, early 50s. And I'm like, bitch, where? I'm not even 30 yet. Like, shouldn't you be talking about your friend Thomas Bishop? Like, I'm pretty sure you came from that video. And
Right.
he's got gray hair. He's bald. He's married. Like, come on. He has to be at least 45, 50. Come on now. Like,
Right.
you must be talking about that guy, not me. Let's
But
be for
you're
real.
forgetting he's black, so you can't criticize him.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yep. But I'm also, according to everybody, I'm also 100% white, too. And I'm not allowed to speak up on anything.
You can't speak up, and I'm white adjacent, so I can't speak up either.
Yep. We
I have
can't
no
say
voice.
anything.
We have no
because
voice.
We're just nope. We're too fair pigmented. Even though I'm really not that white, but
We should just close up shop because we have no voice.
we should just be done with this.
So, guys, you heard this. This was our last episode. We're not going to be doing this anymore because we have no voice. I'm just kidding, of course. So I thought we were gonna we did make it this exciting because I thought the end of the show was gonna be about 15 minutes ago, and then we got additioning on some more stuff. Now it's really the end, and I hope we see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chris Thomas. This is Larissa. Please follow her new account Over the Shit 7.0, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye, guys.